Welcome to Surviving Business. This is Winston. I'm here with David. Dave, it's great to be back. Great to have another episode for us to go ahead and share with people what we believe in regards to their business and their business success. I think we'd be remiss today if we didn't acknowledge all the stuff that's happening in our world. Our boy DMX passed recently. I don't know about if any of you who are an audience member knows who he is, but he's one of the greatest rappers ever, period. He was a guy who had, at least in the way I perceive rap, he's just one of the greatest lyricists that we ever had. And he was an authentic dude. And so very, very sad about that. So Dave, great to have you here today. Hope you're doing well.
Doing great. Yes.
Doing well.
RIP, SIP, all that DMX. I was just listening to some of his stuff, and man, the guy talked about when he was going, a lot, especially like on his album cuts and interludes. And it's kind of sad that that day came so early, especially when he was about to make a little bit of a rebound. But
yeah, I think one of the lessons for all of us that are out there that are in business today is that you just got to be you, man. Stop. Don't let somebody tell you that you can't be yourself. DMX was himself. The challenging parts of his life, the fantastic parts of his life, he was open. He
Yep.
did not like have you say himself, I wonder what he's really like. No one could do that with DMX. He was that
This
guy.
is the truth.
Yeah. So today we're going to do some cool things as usual. We hope you enjoy this. We're going to talk about several things. So we're first going to talk about something we'd like you to all think about with your own business. So we're going to kick that off in a cool new way for everybody to see. So here we go. As soon as I get it going. All right, here we go. And we are going to kick this off. So here is our new Business Beat Corner, everybody. So get down with this. So today we are going to talk about stocks and stock sites. And the reason why we wanted to talk about this today is that I remember Dave did an episode for one of our other channels, probably about, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And when it first happened and we first put it out there, I was looking at it and I was looking at it afterward. It was phenomenal. And I was like, damn, that thing is getting no love at all as far as people like, what is that? Or plugging into it. I was like, damn, is that one of our worst things that we ever did? Fast forward 5 or so months later, and without a doubt, it is one of the most popular things that we've ever done. People really wanted to know a lot about stocks and how to get involved in stocks and what's going on with the stock market. You don't have to go far in the news cycle to understand that the stock market goes up and down, which is our theme of today, rides. And so I said, why don't we talk about the stock stuff that we use or think about when we look at stock stuff? And so everyone that's out there, every single one of you for the most part have a phone. And so on your phone, you can see stocks. You can go into whether it's Apple or Android or whatever and check on different stocks directly from your phone. And I want us to talk about that a little bit, but also talk about some of the sites that we use. And the first one we'll share is one that I used way back when I was going to grad school, when I had to look up companies. And it was a phenomenal way to do research for cases and all of those things you have to do in grad school. And that is this one. That is Google Finance. And so for those of you who are out there, you can see that Google Finance is a cool one. Anyone, whether you got a phone or not, I actually think there's an app specifically for this that you can go in. And the reason why I liked it is that when I was going to grad school, I had to do lots of cases where I had to research companies. And inside of the companies, I always wanted to know what was going on with them. So I had to pick one, like the one I picked here, and it would tell you their stock price, and it would tell you some data that was good for research, the trends over time. These things have all gotten very sophisticated over time. 12 years ago when I did this, it was a shadow of what it looks like here today. but it had a lot of great key indicators, as well as what I've seen now with these is that they've got some news aggregate stories that are specific on there, and then they've got some comparables, some other people who are like that. I say this all to you guys is that every single one of you, if you got $5, go invest that $5 in something. Go put it in something, and we'll talk about the retail investment segment here in a second. But investing in something like this is a great way to kind of get your investment stuff going. So, Dave, tell us about your experience with sites and apps and stuff like that.
So, finance has definitely come a long way as far as being able to give the general public access to information on multiple sites, right? So but some of the main ones that I've used since I've known about tracking investments online, or the main one would be Yahoo Finance, right? I spend a lot of time on Yahoo Finance because I can get the quick and dirty about what's going on with a company pretty fast, right? You get snapshot information, you get information about what's happening in the market, and it's constantly updating. You get your streamlined data that's always there at the top where it shows what's happening in the markets, which I feel like it's cool, right? If I'm looking for a ticker and I actually go in the search for a stock, once I get into that stock quote mode, I'm able to pull up quotes and get company information rather quickly, right? I find it to be cool, right? They have an application also for your phones. There are a plethora of sites right now. As Winston said, at some point you're going to want to invest, and when you do invest, be aware that whatever platform it is that you're investing on, they're going to offer some type of insight into companies, right? So they're going to give you research data, right? And it would behoove you to use that research data that they do provide, because that's either what you're paying a fee for, or what they're paying some researcher out there to go and do to find out information about these different companies. So don't waste it. As my prior life, I worked in financial services for years. Worked on specific products that was geared towards retail investors. So when it comes down to how should a client or someone that's out there that wants to get started in the market, what should they look at? In today's age, looking at these stocks that skyrocket, it always seems great. There's always a winning story out there. You're like, man, if I would have invested in that yesterday, my $10 would have been $2,000, right? But those are, although people, especially last year, a lot of people struck rich, right? Everybody felt like they were, Warren Buffett or, whoever else that's out there. They're like, yeah, I'm making $50,000 in the market, and then, you speak to them the next, 5 weeks later, and they're like, oh man, I lost $20,000 in the market,
There's a
but,
lot of speculation, yes.
yeah, but they're like, I'm still up like 3,000, but, the thing is what you find is, certain investment tools that are out there are investment tools because they have proven history, and for the most part, although history can never detail what's going to happen in the future, it can allow for you to take a scientific approach to say, like, okay, if I invest in the S&P 500 index in an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund, more than likely my fees are minimal in an exchange traded fund, unlike if it was a mutual fund where I'd be paying a little bit more. My fees are minimal, and I'm going to track the S&P 500. So if the market does well and companies are still surviving and they're doing good, I'm going to do good. If the market starts to have problems and it starts to tank, I'm not tanking the entire market. I'm tanking what these top 500 companies are really doing. which a lot of times what it does, it spreads out your risk, right? So your risk to reward ratio becomes spread, and this is this whole idea of alpha and beta, and I can spend like a million hours going through this stuff without writing a lesson plan or even thinking about where we're gonna go next. But yeah, back to sites.
Yeah.
Yahoo's.
I tell you, it's such an exciting time for people, and I've seen some news stories that say, "Hey, well, people ain't got any money, so they can't go ahead and invest in anything." And that to me is an issue because if you remember just 10, 15 years ago, you used to have, it was like a gate you had to go through in order to start to invest in something.
Yep.
But now if you got $20 and $30 or whatever it is, you can invest in platforms like Robinhood and the other one We Build and all those ones, and you can start doing that. And the reality is, and this is kind of a macro view from my perspective, is that our country has changed. If you were around in the 50s and 60s, almost everyone had a pension. There's very few of us who have that anymore. Unless you're in the government, you're working as a government employee or in military or something like that, or an educator or working for some place that's like that. But there's a decent amount of Americans who don't have that at all. And stocks is one way to try to do that, or to try to mitigate that. And that's to get involved. Start with something you like. Start with a company that you just like. There's plenty of stocks you can get for $2 or $5. Just start somewhere because we believe in you, whether you have a business or not. You should be investing in something that's going to help your family and your legacy grow. I think about this a lot, Dave, because when we came here, just thinking about our own family, our family's done a pretty good job as preparing us to be educated and to get to where we are. But the legacy is really the next step for everybody's family, and I think we're in a good spot to do that.
Yeah, and when you think about s- purchasing stock, right? And if you watch my 101 or the 101 stock tip thing that we did before, well, 101 on investing and kind of like went over what a company really is.
By the way,
Well,
we'll link it into for those of you who see the final version of this and not the live, you'll see that link to that one specifically in there.
yeah, so one important thing about that was that when you do purchase stock, you're purchasing ownership into the company, right? So you essentially have become an owner of that company. So you should believe in the mission of that company. Um, in today's age, just to talk on what Winston was saying, he said, in the past you used to have goobs or gobbles of money. I can remember early in my career working for what Citigroup or whatever, and it was like, okay, if I wanted to buy a share of stock, number one, I had to have a broker, right? So like E Trade and TD Ameritrade, a lot of those platforms, they weren't even popularized yet. So you had to have an actual broker to go and commit your trade with, right? And then when you did your trade, even when those platforms started to come on, you did your trade, you had to pay that broker. You had to pay that broker like 10.95, $10.95 on one trade. But your one trade, you couldn't say I'm going to go and buy one share stock. You would have to buy everything in a round lot. If you don't know what a round lot is, that's 100 shares, right? So if you look on the market, number one, data wasn't available like what it is today, right? So my Yahoo Finance was really great back then because finding information on companies was nowhere near as easy as what it is today. Today, every single company that files that is traded on a stock exchange in the United States, they have to file their annual reports, which they did back then. They had to file their annual reports, but the annual reports are also available on their websites, on their individual websites. So if you ever wanted to really find out about a company, you want to go and look at their 10K report, which is their annual report. And in that annual report, that's where the company is going to try and sell you on what they do, what their mission is, how they're going to do it, what the management thinks that the company can perform. And then embedded in all that, you want to look at the risk section because that's where they're going to have to tell you the dirty laundry, right? You want to look at, all of the things that are in there is going to tell you if this company really has some structural issues.
Yeah, I made a comment that about just getting involved, and that made me think about a small amount that I'd purchased in this group here that's up front here. And Sundial Growers, I think they're involved in the cannabis industry and that kind of thing. And it's $1. So I'm not saying that anyone should buy this. We're not giving anyone stock advice at all on any level. We just know that there's something that you like. I'm not saying I like cannabis, but something that you like or something that you're into, and that you will say to yourself, "Hey, I would like to get a piece of that and find out how that's going." That's kind of a first step to think about when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, and as Winston saying that, what a lot of these sites are also offering, Robinhood, I think TD Ameritrade, I don't think that they offer it yet, but a lot of these sites they're offering, even your Cash App, you could go and buy stocks. But what they're offering is that if you got a dollar amount, you got $20, and you say, "Yeah, I got $20, I want to be a part of Amazon." Okay, so Amazon stock is trading at $1,000 something. I don't know, maybe $2,000 something. You're not buying a share of Amazon with $20, but they'll give you a little piece. You'll get a little piece of the share, right? That's that value of the company that you believe in, right? This is something that you just couldn't do prior to computing having the power that it is today. To buy one share, like what I said before, everything was sold in a round lot. It wasn't sold in a round lot just because that was the way that it was always done, and it just was done like it was, because it requires a lot of computing power. It requires a lot of ability to be able to account and track for each share. Once you start breaking those lots, once you start selling one share and two shares to people, and now you're selling 0.25 shares to someone, 0.12 shares to someone, right? That's all because of the advancement in technology and some smart guys that do a lot of algorithms and stuff, figuring out how can they really make that work.
Yeah. I think what we're really just trying to make sure you understand is that to get started, start today. Do something when it comes to this. It's so easy. David made some fantastic points about how challenging it was just a few years ago. Just get up and go do some of that today. It's the same thing when it comes to the business that we talk about here on Surviving Business. Your business should really be linked to kind of who you are and kind of how you want your values to be represented. Right. So really think about all of that. We will link the previous stock one on our website. And I think there's an opportunity for us to share more info like that. So David will probably ask you at some point to reprise that conversation on that and to kind of come back and talk about that more, because right now at this time, everybody wants to figure out how did they survive the pandemic in one way or the other. Some people, they're just trying to survive for real, like physically, like they need food and
Mm-hmm.
shelter and those kind of things. The 5 levels. But then there's many of us who are thinking about the future, and we think that this is one way to do it. So that is the business corner for today. So now we are going to jump over. So before, if you hadn't realized before, I was doing my beatbox interpretations from back in the 90s or 80s. And so now we got little bumpers for each one of these areas. So now let's talk about industries. I get a sense that the audience here at some point might like my beatboxes as much as the little, as much as all the little bumpers there.
Maybe you can do your beatbox also.
On
Better
top
beatbox
of
than you, but
it, on top of it.
because your beatbox is so bad, I think the audience would enjoy it.
Come on, man. I used to have beatbox and bars back in the day. They were for real. My bars
Okay,
were for real.
okay, maybe bars. I don't know about the beatbox.
So today we're going to talk about amusement parks. It's kind of when we were thinking about this in a while, and we had this list of different places that we wanted to talk about. I think we were like, all right, these guys were challenging, and definitely were. If you went back to last summer in the midst of the pandemic, these days, I think there's a lot of hope when it comes to amusement parks. There's a lot of hope. I personally won't be going to one soon. However, I think there's a lot of people that will be going to them, and there'll be a lot of people that will be ready to go, especially young kids and all that. It's going to do well. So, David, tell us about your experience with amusement parks.
So amusement parks, we can go back. Well, we can't really go back that far, right? So when I go back and my earliest memory of an amusement park was piling up in the '78 Thunderbird, and I believe cousin Rhonda or sister Rhonda, she was coming with us, and I think Aunt Ruby came, and we went down to Great Adventures. Of course, it's adventures, right? Because we come from a Caribbean household that also lives in New York, where it's not Great Adventure, it's Great Adventures, right? So we went to Six Flags, which actually does have a plural, right? Um, and I don't even know if it was called Six Flags back then. I just knew it was Great Adventures. At
I
some point when we got
don't think it
older,
was. I think that was an industry. Somebody bought a bunch of parks and put that on there. I think it's
yeah, yeah. So we went there in New Jersey, and it was just, like the most amazing thing ever. I think Rhonda and her sister, I found out that they lost me in the park that day. And I found like a cop, and the cop had to make like an announcement to everybody, like in the whole park, that they found this young boy named David.
I don't
But
think you. I don't think you were lost. You were just going on an adventure. We
yeah,
thought you were lost.
yeah, I was on an adventure. Great adventures,
That's
right?
why you came there for an adventure. So you're like, I'm on a great adventure. That's what they call this place.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, it was just like the most amazing thing, right? You went to this place and you saw the rides. And as a young child, for most people that have gone to an amusement park when you're really young, there are all of these rides that you're not tall enough to get on. And you're like, man, I can't wait till when I'm big enough to be able to get on that ride, right? So that created like this whole thing where parents had to continuously bring their kids back, because it's like one day you're going to be tall enough to get on this ride, and then you're going to have the enjoyment of being scared out of your wits on this machine that could kill you. So yeah, fast forward, I remember graduating from high school, our school trip was to Busch Gardens in Virginia. And even then, by then I was a little more weary of riding roller coasters, and I think they had like something that was called like the Big Scary Wolf or something. I don't remember exactly what it was called.
The big scary wolf. That's cool.
It was something like that, but it was like this thing where you stood up on, and it had you upside down. And of course, during that trip, that joint got stuck in the middle of the air. And I looked at that and said, no way, I'm not going on
Wait a
any
minute.
more.
You weren't on it when it got stuck. You
No,
just
I
looked at
wasn't on it. I
it.
wasn't
Oh,
on it. I was a senior in high school, too cool for school. There was no way that I was getting on a ride to let my classmates see me scared at any point on a ride, because it takes a level of vulnerability for you to be able to be on these rides and really be scared. Right? Some people love to be scared and they can like laugh it off and look like happy. I'm not that person, right? If I'm scared, I'm like, get me off of this thing, right? So
I'm trying
yeah,
to think. I'm trying to think. Have I ever been scared on a ride? I've been excited. Like, especially the ones that drop. They're like the super fast roller coasters and all that stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
scared. I don't know.
When the roller coaster's going up and it's going up and it's going up, and then it hits that top part where I can't see anything in the sky. I can't see anything but the sky, and then it makes that jump down. I'm never that happy with that. I mean, I don't like heights, right? And I
Oh,
could say like I got a little bit of a fear of heights.
I
So
did
if I
not
don't,
know. I've known you all your life, and I did not know you had a fear of heights. I did not
yeah,
know that.
I have a fear of heights. So if the ground isn't steady under me and I don't know what's going on as I'm going down,
Yeah.
it doesn't sit well with me. It's a
I
level
guess
of
you could say that you've known me all most of my life. But anyway, that was just
yeah,
was on another side.
yeah,
But yeah, amusement parks are fun. I still enjoy them. I don't like some of the parts of it, like standing online for 2 hours. I'm
That's the
getting a
worst
little
part.
bit too old for that part. So I
Yep.
can understand why people at Disney would have these and Six Flags would have these fast pass. I didn't understand it years ago when I was young. I was like, what the hell, fast pass? I ain't paying no extra money to go faster to get to the line fast. Now I understand that quite
Yeah.
well.
I always
Um,
understood that.
there's one thing that our audience, depending on where you're listening to us, wherever you are in the country, you might not be familiar with places like Six Flags and those kind of places, but you might be familiar with carnivals that are in your local area. We had one, wasn't super small, but it was sort of small in Long Island, and it wasn't as big as Six Flags, and it was called Adventureland.
Oh yeah.
And that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Kids, I tell you, this year, I tell you, kids are going to be all over the place with that. So when we think about them as a surviving business, I think that they've got to think about ways to do things to make sure that they capitalize on what's going to be upcoming. Because
Yeah.
people are going to come, I mean, capitalize in a way that is good. Because I think you said something that made me remember this. I think one of the weaknesses that they had prior to COVID was that people weren't going as much as they used to when they started to see all of the news reports of people being injured or something at an amusement park. Like Disney, they still making their money. Disney is probably one of the safest places in the world. But when you think about amusement parks all over, I think that they were starting to struggle with that because they would hear something about going on at some local thing that's in a parking lot somewhere and somebody would get damaged. And people that I think their interpretation of amusement parks started to change a little bit, especially when you think about all the other things that people can do for amusement pre-COVID. I think that that was really an effect on that.
Yep. So I see we got a comment out there that someone would take a water park over the normal the normal amusement park. And yeah, me too. Water parks are awesome, especially on a hot day. Nothing beats a water park. It's like, did I just turn into somebody from Boston real quick? I was like, water park, you know.
What you gotta go to the water park.
But yeah, man, those things, you cool off. It's like a pool on crack. I've always liked water rides. There's no water ride that really scares me. I guess because the water's under you and you're in a boat or you're in something and it's kind of like comfortable. Um, but yeah, it's crazy for me. When we really think about those smaller parks like amusement park, we could see. So they're like fighting with legislation. They fought the New York legislation uh since they've been closed, and they've been making the news lately like, we need these doors open. Coney Island, we need these doors open. But when you said small amusement parks, I was in fears. I was thinking more like their little pop-up that used to happen at Nassau Coliseum
That's what
every
I'm talking about,
summer.
like those ones that were in a parking lot somewhere.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they would just pop up and then something would happen and that would shut it all down.
yeah,
That
yeah,
would be the end of that.
yeah. They actually have one that happens in Roosevelt, um, in the little food town parking lot, in a part of
Uh,
it. So
just for the audience to know, Roosevelt is where we grew up. It's a 1 square mile in the middle or the lower part of Long Island. And it's 1 square mile and over 15,000 people live in that 1 square mile. And it's a dope place. It's just where we grew up. Just so the audience knows where we're talking about. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah. Um yeah, but when we look at, you know, them surviving, I think that there's some questions that might be out there. And I know that you mentioned the thing about, the quick pass. To me, the quick pass, there's a ethical dilemma that I have with some of those things, right? And I know that a lot of times it's good for business to be able to upcharge people. We see this on the airlines all the time. We upcharge people so that they get like this special VIP treatment and they get to skip the line and go in front of people. But it's kind of like
That's a uniquely American thing.
very uniquely American.
Yeah.
It's one of those things like, so if my parents could just afford admission for me to come in, I gotta wait for the kid whose parents are like filthy rich to go in front of me for every single ride.
Or the kid who isn't filthy rich and their parent is pushing them, like, I got to get on it quickly. And then they're spending money they should probably spend somewhere else
Yeah.
just to get on the quick pass or the
Yep.
fast pass.
Yeah. Yeah, so I get it when someone is disabled and they need to cut the line because they can't wait in line. They got like a bad leg or something. That makes sense. But just because I have more money, should I really just get greater access to all of the park?
Yeah,
For the
I
company, it makes sense. It makes sense. The dollars make sense. You can charge that great money for it, but I guess ethically,
yeah.
it's a question.
I think about. I think this has come up in other episodes of Surviving Business, where we think about how to integrate current technology with what's going on at that place. And this might be happening. I don't know it. I don't. I'm not as entrenched with amusement parks now that my kid is grown. Uh, but like, how do you, how do you, how do you stream and how do you connect the dots? How do you do live stuff? How do you get people excited about going to the park by linking technology and linking like a channel for the amusement park? All of those kind of things that every small business these days know they have to employ in order to be successful. How do the amusement parks capitalize on that? Because if they're just going to ask me to come and buy a season pass for $50 or whatever, I don't know how much they cost. It costs $50 in 2021. I might be reluctant to do that. If I
Mm,
go once, maybe once this year, but I don't know if they're getting people on season passes like they used to.
yeah. So we have another comment that a lot of water parks have accommodations, conference centers, food, indoor and outdoor activities. As a parent, having everything under one roof is an all-inclusive approach to a vacation on a budget, which is awesome. And you know what? The thing is that they've made a switch to do these things because the season pass is not going to pay the bills. And for some of the smaller parks that uh find that on downtimes of the year they generate no income, right? So if you're in New York or you're in the upper northeast or even if you're in the south and you're not in Georgia, not Georgia, you're not in Florida, where it's warm all year round, you got to close your doors for 3 to 4 months out of the year, right?
That's
and
right.
it's and it's what's your strategy to make sure that you're able to still get some income to come in? For me, I kind of think about the experience that everyone has to have when they come to the park, and how do you increase or make that experience better for those people that do have those long waits online. If you can't figure out a way to increase your cycle time to get people through faster, right? So you got to ride, you can only run it but so fast due to safety measures that you have to adhere to, right? How am I going to be able to make sure that if someone has to wait in line for an hour and a half to get onto a ride, that they're actually enjoying that hour and a half, right? And I
Mm.
think that this is where we start thinking about technology, and we start saying like, okay, if you're going to do upgrades to the park, let's think about other ways to do upgrades to the park. Are there ways to like create little dance things, have music going, have some type of activity that's happening on the lines as you wait, right? the
I
some
wanted
of the
to, real quick, I wanted to say that I was at a park. I think this was in San Diego at an amusement park, and they had pictures of people while they were on the rides flashing while you were online. So if I'm online to get on a roller coaster, other people who are already on it, like I would see their images and all that. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's enough amusement, but I thought that was interesting to see people because people's eyes are all freaked out when they're on. I
Yeah,
was like, now that's a cool thing to keep me occupied. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
the other thing to think about is if you've got these video monitors while people are waiting 2 hours, going back to the fact that people love videos of stuff, putting videos that are not just your parks videos, but something that's entertaining, kind of. I think that's probably where you were going a little bit on that, piece around having those entertainers there, having people jump in and say, "Hey, here's a video of something that's cool that kids would like or that families would like." And even when you think about like these movie theaters, going back to a previous episode, so please go back to watch the previous episodes of Surviving Business when we talked about movie theaters and all this stuff. You got a new thing coming up, a new movie that's coming up. Here's trailers while you wait.
Yep.
And people would be like, "Oh, what? Movies are coming back at the same time?" That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And the one last piece I'll say that I was thinking about is that when I would go to the amusement park, for some reason, and this kind of just links to my own upbringing, is I was always look for the arcade at the amusement park. Like where is the where's the arcade? And this in arcades, as you know, all over the world, these arcade games are now where you can dance and jump and all that stuff.
Mm,
And we talked earlier about how do we get the VR people to get some adoption. I think an amusement park would be a cool thing to do because it's a ride.
yep.
It's a, VR. You go to you're at the amusement park anyway.
Yep.
You feel a little safety that being at the amusement park. So go on, put the headset on, and the headset can be a ride of something that's going on,
It could
or
definitely.
something else that's happening. And then you're like, yo, not only did I go on an actual ride, I went on a VR ride at the same time. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's a way to combine those two bits of amusement.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and as you think about that, those lines, that's a great opportunity to be able to sell people stuff. Imagine if I'm waiting online and, there's some water bottles for sale, is this, they could even just put like, concession, the machines there, the vending machines, anything. Those are just opportunities just waiting. If I'm waiting on a line for an hour and a half, and there's something that's there that's different than just looking at the person in front of me and the people behind me and hearing their conversation, you better believe when I get to that thing, I'm going to pay some attention to it. And if it means that I'm going to spend, $3 on a water because, my kid sees it and they're like, oh, I want water. All of a sudden, I need water. I'm thirsty. I would get the water, right? Versus like even, anything else. So I think that that's an opportunity that parks maybe have always missed, where when people are waiting on lines, find a way to sell them something.
Yeah, I
T-shirts.
wanted to go back to the comment on water parks. I haven't been to many water parks that I can recall, maybe two in my life. So they haven't been a thing that I have a lot of experience with. But I know that there's one here in the state that I'm in Georgia, that is so popular. I think it's as popular, if not more popular, than the actual roller coaster rides things. And I think that might be a play. I don't know how what the prevalence is of those, but water parks I think the comment that we got about it being a nice little vacation time and a fun thing, I think that's a cool way to look at that. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, water parks are great. The Great Adventure over here, they actually have a water park just on the other side of the parking lot. It's called Harbor Freeze. And I remember one year we were going to a Great Adventure every year that my goddaughter comes down. We would take a trip to Great Adventure. And one year we didn't have our passes for Great Adventure, but we did have passes for Harbor Freeze. And we went over there, and it was awesome. It happened to be like a super hot day, and we were like, "What did we need Great Adventure for? We should just come in here anyway." Um, but you have all of these different parks. You got Hershey Park. You got Sesame Street, whatever. You got all of these different themed parks that are out there. But I think for all of them, there are ways for them to increase the money that they're making without necessarily making the experience so different for people that are a little disenfranchised, because I think a lot of times we're dealing with children and it's not good. It's not maybe because I'm an educator now, but I'm just like, I look at it and like it's just not great when there's like this haves and have nots type of thing for kids to look at. And a kid like, oh, I want the Great Adventure and I got on every ride, and the other kids like, how'd you get on every ride? I only got on three because we were waiting online all day. And the kid's like, oh, because I could cut the line. And the other kids like, oh, I just think about conversations like that. And kind of,
here's a political thing that I'm okay with telling the audience this about how I feel about this. Um, Years ago, when I was young, we would have in the summertime we would have a camp that you could take kids to that didn't cost the families in our community a nickel, and the kids would go there every single day throughout the summertime of the year, and they would do ceramics, or you'd learn how to do karate, or you'd learn how to sing, or you would learn other things. And every Friday we would go on a trip somewhere. and this didn't cost anyone maybe a couple of bucks for snacks and so forth. And then we would go to many of those parks that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. And the exposure that I, as a young person, got to all of these different people, all these different parts. So we'd go to the parks we talked about. We'd go to New Jersey. We'd go to upstate New York. We'd go to Bear Mountain. All these places that people, younger people, don't may not get exposed to this day because we've created this world. To your point, David, where this is have and have nots have happened. So these young kids, they can only go there if someone tells them or musters up the amount to do that. And I'm in this opinion that that's not happening the way it could and should. And this goes back to a surviving business solution. We've given several solutions today to help the amusement parks kind of recapture themselves. And this might be happening with some of them. I could not find any particular research that indicates this because they're money making businesses. Some of them are listed on the stock exchange. But you should have a day, at least one day, ever so often, where you bring in kids specifically from anywhere and have them have a day. I'm sure that this exists somewhere, but it may not get the publicity that it needs to have. Um, just make sure that young people or people who can't get to the park find a way, have it open and say, hey, today, this month, we're going to invite people over, invite all the essential workers that have been helping through the pandemic because they may not be able to afford to have their kids come out. Have them bring their kids out for a day where you're focusing on essential workers. That's a way to re-engage people in what you do and to thank them for all the stuff that they do.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And we have one last comment on here. We see that selling products online would be great. Use that same approach to collect data and statistics on the customers so they could improve what they want to improve their experience. And you could also use the data to address crowd control and have a better forward look on what your I guess the population of people on a particular ride is, right? Rather than doing this count after they've gotten on the ride, right? You will be able to have these points on the line. Like, okay, well, we have people on the line as they cross this particular center. And it would probably help in giving time estimations on how long you would have to wait on a specific line also.
And then you can actually have the people, the ones who are selling the products, at some point use that data to help sponsor and defray the cost of you actually running the park.
Yep.
There is a ways to think about it that way. I once had a professor many years ago who was coaching me and talking to me, and this will transition into our next segment. And I said, well, Professor, I won't tell his name, Professor X, let's just say that, which is funny.
Oh, you were an X Men.
That's right. It sounds funny. And so, what a business is going to look for in the future? And he said, Winston, there's two things that's going to happen in the future for a successful business. It's leadership and data. That's it.
Yep.
If you got good leadership and you got great data and you know how to use it, businesses are going to be successful. And fast forward a decade or so later, and he was 100% correct. And so when you think about amusement parks, they've got to get the data right. The amount of people who buy season passes or buys a ticket per day, that's only a part of the data, right? To your point, and to our commenters' point. There are people who are walking around there who like stuff. And so the more ways you can get them engaged, the better. So this has been a fantastic conversation about amusement parks. I'm looking forward to 2021 in June and July and August. I am under this opinion that people are going to find ways to get to them and they're going to be a blast and they're going to do well. Now, whether they will be a blast in the future or this will just be an aberration for them, that's up to them to figure out. They've got to do that. Any closing comments on amusement parks, David?
Yeah, I would say, coming out of COVID, I think that and who knows, we might have a fourth wave, but even if the fourth wave hits, I think amusement parks are still going to be open and people are still going to be going to them. They are one of the safest places for people to be able to go because all of them are outdoor as long as people are wearing their mask and observing some level of social distancing. I don't see a reason why an amusement park should be closed because they have tons and tons of space. If there's one thing that they do not lack is space, right? So yeah, when they put people on a ride, maybe you're putting people every other row versus in every row, but they should be open. I'm happy that they are opening, and I'm wishing the best for them. I think that they do have some challenges, but at the end of the day, amusement parks are they're here to stay. When you're in an amusement park, you're kind of confined to that area, and therefore the upcharge that they sell you on the horrible pizza and the horrible chicken fingers, no one really cares that much about, because guess what? You're at the amusement park. You're there once, twice, maybe three times in a season. So most people are willing to pay the price. Now, if they did improve their food and they did improve, some of those other things I mentioned, that would be a great win for them. Because if I went to Great Adventure, I was like, man, this was a great chicken sandwich. The beer, they had some choices of beer. Maybe I'm more apt to come more times in a season.
That's
Just
right.
my 2 cents.
So this has been fantastic. And thank you so much for the comments that we received. So, in our next segment, we're going to talk about a business that's thriving and we see is thriving and thriving out there in the world. So, let's get so in so in this
Okay.
segment we talk about the fact that there are so many businesses throughout the pandemic that are doing well. And this goes back, David, to a point you mentioned earlier that there are a real have and have nots that exist. This is a K shaped recovery. For those of us who don't know what that means, is that those who are doing well or who are wealthy are continuing to go up and actually doing well in this recovery, and those who are of limited means aren't going up that fast. And so that's creating a K. And so, but I know one business that is potentially going up, and that is the business that we are sort of in, and that's in coaching. And that is helping people and coaching people in regards to certain aspects of their life. Uh, the coaching business has always been growing to the point where there's been some franchises that have been created just for coaching, where people are just coaching. But I can tell you, there are so many people that I know, including myself, who are totally invested in this as a way to help other people find out their paths in life. And I'm going to share with the audience here something that I saw specific to this. And I thought it was such a fascinating view in regards to the fact that business coaching is a really booming industry. And let me make sure that this is something that the audience can see. And it really talks about some of these stats that exist out there when it comes to business coaching. And that even when you think about large businesses or you think about this individual coaching, all of these stats rely on the fact that people like to get help from other people. They just do. And this business has been really thriving. And this links to everything that we've been sharing on the Surviving Business show. And that's really around the fact that we live in 2021. And there's so many ways that you can start a business or get a business going today that doesn't require you to find $5 million. And business coaching is one of those. Business coaching is you to do a self identification on what are you strong at? What can you help somebody else with? And I can guarantee you that every single person that's out there has the ability to help somebody with something that they've either learned or something that they have an expertise in. I'm not saying everybody should do this as a business, but to me, I see this as a thriving business that's not going anywhere post pandemic. I can see this as something that we will see more people get involved in.
Yep, I would agree. So, when we look at coaching and business coaching, um, today there are more ways for people to provide that level of information and service than ever before, right? Whether if we're talking about through um, teleconferencing, Zoom calls, or if we're talking about social media sites, or what's the new thing that's out there? What's in the the group thing that
Oh,
people,
Clubhouse.
there's Clubhouse, there's all these different types of networks that are out there that allow for people to say, like, I know a lot about something. Let me share the information that I know, and be able to help businesses grow, right? Or for someone to be able to do something better than what they were able to do before, right? Without thinking of business, whenever I, need to figure out how to do something, a lot of times I say, let me check YouTube and see if someone has a video up about it, right? And these videos that are up about it, they vary in content, right? But that's not the level of coaching that we're speaking about, right? The level of coaching we're talking about is when someone's able to sit down and they're able to talk to someone and really provide a service, right? Which is more kind of like a consultancy, right? Because you're trying to help someone be the best them that they can be. Um, and I think that when as we evolve and as people start to do things that are bigger and greater in their businesses, they understand that they do need advice. And sometimes it's not so much that you need advice, it's like a coach, right? You need somebody to kind of like help self correct those things that you may be doing that are not so perfect, right? I whenever I think of coaching, I always got to think of sports. So of course I got a sports thing that I like to that I'll have to connect to this, and it would go. I'll talk about Tom Brady and how a lot of people say, "Well, Tom Brady is the greatest ever," and maybe Bill Belichick wasn't that great because he had this great talent of Tom Brady, and I'm like, no, Bill Belichick had this guy for 20 years. If you're a great coach and you have somebody for 20 years, they should be able to operate without you anymore, right? The
That's
idea
right.
is that you shouldn't, if I'm a great coach, I shouldn't have to coach you for the rest of your life. I should be able to give you the tools that you need to be effective, and then you should be able to go out there and do it, live life, and be prosperous.
That's a great way to look at that. Where I think people, especially since Tom Brady won the most recent Super Bowl, like, oh yeah, he was the great. It was all about him. But you're right. It's 20 years of being under the tutelage of a great coach that prepared him for that win in that Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see that happen. So for business coaching, a lot of times what's happening there is, I've been through it. I've seen, I've got degrees about it. I've done corporate experience. I've, started my own startups. I've done this, or I've run this restaurant before. I've done this type of thing before. You're able to take these experiences that you've done, and people are realizing they can take these experiences that they have, and they can marry those experiences with things that people are trying to do today. Now, the catch 22 to all of this is that there's business coaching, there are people who want to coach, right? And then there are people who just want to make some extra bread or just seem like they are know-it-alls about something, right? So it's important to me, even as we look at this as a thriving business, we know it's a thriving business, but you look at people who are authors, you look at Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Howard Kawasaki, and how he was able to take a business and make that business grow and make it very prosperous, and say he wants to share his great level of knowledge with everyone. So he wrote the book, and now he goes on tour, and now he doesn't have to flip properties anymore because every time he goes to speak somewhere, he's making crazy bucks. To people who say that they've done similar things to like what he's really done, but there's no real proof behind the fact that they've accomplished that. So be wary when taking advice or signing up for some of these coaching type of um I guess I will call it like seminar type of experience, because that's a little bit different than a one-on-one coach or someone who's just really there just to help you. There's a lot of things that are embedded where they'll say like you have to become a part of this system. Those things are very profitable. You know, if I'm the real estate guy, Merritt or whatever his name is, and I'm like, become a part of my system. You know, the first day everyone comes in for free. I rent out a Marriott room, and I get 100 people to come in. I get 10 of those people to say that they want to come back for, $100 a pop, $150 a pop for like a 2 day seminar or whatever. On that 2 day seminar, those 100 people, I try to sell them to upgrade to a $10,000 thing. I get I try to get 10 of them at least to go to the $10,000 thing, and then I'm able to like get them to like this $50,000 thing, and then monthly fees and all this other stuff that I could be collecting from them. It's a that business model works. It works. He makes crazy money off of it. But the idea is that business coaching the same as someone who's sitting down, hand holding a small business and saying like, okay, these are some of the things that you need in order to become a more effective person or more effective business. That's
You
just
know, coaching. Your points are all super valid. Coaching is linking back to what we started this conversation with, and that's around authenticity. To making sure that the person you're dealing with is a coach and not just a super marketer. Like there's some marketing. I maybe it's just the way I grew up. I can smell them pretty fast when I know whether I'm getting it or not getting it. Like when people are like, "Yeah, just get in it," and they'll talk for 2 hours, and then they'll be like, "Well, by the way, it's $5,000 or something like that to
Mhm.
get involved," and that is so disingenuous, and it really hurts true coaching.
Yeah.
I remember spending time and devising and developing a coaching program that I helped people with where I worked at. And the coaching wasn't coaching that people typically say like, "Here, you need to do X, Y, Z, and X and ABC." That's not coaching to me, at least not one-on-one coaching. Coaching is a real discovery path, like helping somebody discover themselves through being able to understand, asking appropriate questions and good questions that allow them to discover it and helping them with that. And that's kind of like a human thing versus these people. You'll see their videos sometimes. My email, once you get signed up for one, they start selling your data all around, and you start getting these people sending you, "Yeah, I've got this proven system that if you talk to you follow these 2 steps, you're going to make $50,000 in 25 minutes. It's going to be amazing. All you got to do, keep listening." Because if you keep listening, you're gonna get paid. And then you'd be like, "Damn, what is this?" You'd be like, "I'm turning this crap off after about 5 or 6 minutes."
Mhm.
Because they're not so the product, there's not a product. The product, if the product is you, then make it be about you helping a person.
Yep.
Don't be fronting and trying to sell another product. Don't try to do it that way. And um, I think a lot of that is because it's a thriving business.
Yeah.
Is that people know that, hey, people need the support and help of other people. That's kind of like a human thing.
Yep.
If I know David is smart and he's great and he can help me understand what I need to do next, I'm gonna try to talk to him. I'm gonna try to connect with him.
Yeah.
But if but that's really the key thing for people to think about. And that coaching is dope. It's great. It's needed. There is no doubt about it. But make sure you're getting authentic coaching, not coaching that says, "Hey, follow this system, these 1, 2, 3 steps." That's not coaching. That's a system. You just bought a system. There's nothing wrong with the system. There's lots of great systems. I've followed systems in the past. Great things like Stephen Covey's or David Allen's, or even most recently Michael Hyatt's. All of these guys have created great systems, but they ain't trying to sell me something that they're coaching me. They're telling me that they got a system. And I think that this is a great business. And a bit of advice I'd give people who are interested in coaching is do that inventory of what do you know? What do you really know? Like, and think about the hard skills that you know, and then think about the soft skills that you know. If you know hard skills, like if you know how to program computers or something, that's a potentially a hard skill. But if you know how to get and collaborate and help other people learn how to collaborate with others, that might be considered a soft skill. And don't let the press front on you or tell you this that soft skills are soft and hard skills are hard. No, you need every human being that's successful needs to have some complement of both of those. Um, I think coaching is going to be fantastic. It's a great business. So if you do that, make sure you take inventory of it. Make sure you know who you are before you start telling people, "Hey, I want to be a coach."
Yep. And make sure that when you get clients that you coach them. Well, you coach them to be their best, right? It's remember that is a personalized approach to helping someone build, right? Similar to a mentorship, just that it's different because you're trying to provide the information that they need to become successful. So just keep that in mind.
So, another episode of Surviving Business is Down. We look forward to talking to you guys again in our next episode. We will be we talked about movie theaters in the past, but now we'll be talking about drama theaters. And there's a reason why I have decided that we should wait on this one because I am intimately emotionally engaged with this one because this is one that I part of my life is around actual theaters where people go and watch plays and musicals and those kind of things. But I think it's time. I'm hearing the winds. I'm hearing that Broadway may be opening up sooner than thought. And there's this is going to be a great topic for us to have a conversation with. For those of you who are out there who are members, please become a member because what you'll see is these live episodes will continue so we can get great comments like we got today, but they won't be up there forever. And they'll be a repository for our people who will become members. And inside of that membership, we will be giving away lots of great content where we can just help you figure out who you are and figure out what kind of business you are, because every single one of you should have a business. Every single one of you should have a business. Now, is it for everyone? Someone says, no, it's not for everyone. But sometimes it's a side hustle. Sometimes it's a craft. Sometimes it's a big enterprise. Whatever it is, in 2021, we know that you're watching this because you believe that you have the guts and the ability to have a great business. So, David, parting words for the audience. I'm going to do beat bop, boom, bam. Do it anyway. Even anyway, boom. I'm going to go back to bars.
Was I supposed to try and rap on that?
Because that's right. You got to come up with bars. But I got the beat. You got to come up with the bars, partner. This is a partnership.
Yeah,
it can't be just one. You got
to do it no beat. Like that was like bum bam bam. We out. No, it's good. Yeah, I just want to say, thank you for our public for joining. See us on the next episode. Remember, if there's one thing that you should have gotten from this is that amusement parks, although they may have their struggles, they're here to stay. That business coaching is more than just saying that, you got some great ideas or, that you think that how to tell people some stuff, right? And that, and then I just want to say, I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
That's awesome. So here comes the bars. We at the Surviving Business Show are here for one thing. We're here to help businesses survive, help you come alive, and to make sure that you thrive. So that is Surviving Business Show for today. Take care, everyone.